Welcome to Dynamics Daily. This is Kelsey Smith reporting. Today's breaking news is that a U.S. vessel mysteriously blew up while in Chinese possession, killing all on board. This news has enraged politicians on all levels. China had some things to say to Panama while in the ambassadorial debate.
Yes. That was not any intention or action by China, but reliable sources tell me that it was the Panamanian government that had destroyed the U.S. vessel and framed China so that the United States would kick China out.
Joseph Manning, the director of laissez-faire, stopped by with a few opinions on the involvement of other countries. Hi, I'm here with Director Joseph Manning of laissez-faire. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Hi, I have some questions for you. What does laissez-faire stand for in this crisis?
Well, laissez-faire is a French term meaning let it be. It represents the separation of state and government. Laissez-faire Inc., I'm here to represent capitalism, really, in general.
Alright, and who does laissez-faire want running Panama now?
Well, we are in support of the Panamanian government in exile.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Well, we want China out of Panama, and we want the Panamanian government reestablished. Obviously, there has been some corruption, and that needs to be corrected. But the government as a whole has been a well-working democracy, and with president and vice president, and it's the people's election. And I want that reinstated.
Okay. And what have you seen happening in Panama in the recent years?
Well, in recent years, Panama has the greatest growing economic in all of Latin America, with a 6.2% increase over just the last year. Relations with other countries have greatly increased. America, we've signed a bilateral free trade agreement, and trade prospers. Last record was that U.S. sent $2.5 billion worth of imported goods into Panama for sale, especially in cars, and the car market is great for Panama. Because of the bilateral free trade agreement, U.S. cars are able to sell at a very competitive price there against Japanese and Korean made vehicles, which really helps the U.S. industry, car industry, which is already on the brink, and we've put billions of dollars into trying to save with Obama's bailout plan. And if we lose this to China coming in, and China would probably tax, as they do in China's home country, then that could easily make the car industry in America just fault, and they would not be able to sell as competitively. It would collapse. If they collapse, that's thousands of jobs lost in America, and with thousands of jobs lost, that would probably send America into another even greater economic depression than we are now.
Alright, and how are you feeling about China stepping into this?
Well, it's definitely crossing a line that they don't belong in Panama. They have one of the lowest, they have the worst human rights records really in all the world. They've killed millions of their own people, and it's like they had to bribe their way in. It's not what the people want. And it can really hurt the global economy as a whole.
Alright, thank you so much for stopping by, Director Manning.
Thank you for giving me the privilege.
The Speaker of the House, Ms. Anna Hudusky, came in and shared her side of the story. I'm here with the Speaker of the House, Ms. Anna Hudusky. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. I have some questions for you. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your stance on China's intervention?
As American people, it's been shown in our history that we're not to be messed with, we're not to be pushed around. I'm not necessarily saying you automatically take military action. I believe if peace can be found, it is found. But forcing someone into diplomacy is not diplomacy. If you force someone to be diplomatic, you're not being diplomatic. Using nuclear weapons and capturing our men as leverage is not diplomacy. So until you understand diplomacy, Mr. Holland, please don't use it or attempt to use it. I plan on being the Teddy Roosevelt of our country. We will not be pushed around. We are not someone to stand back and let communism take over. have we seen in U.S. history numerous times of us not letting communism rule. We will not let communism take a stance in Latin America.
How do you feel about the mysterious explosion that seems to have taken an entire vessel and crew?
Well, the president's statement that passed just recently through the Senate, 7-0, was pretty surprising to me. But if it is being held by China and China doesn't back out on it, then I believe China said it would remove all of its men if anything would happen to our men. Under no circumstances did it say whether they had done it or not, but if they're harmed, and they have been harmed.
All right, thank you. And then, how have circumstances like this been solved or evident in history?
Well, we've seen it with the Cuban Missile Crisis with JFK. There were missiles off the coast of Cuba, and we solved that. Why can't we do something like that? We have numerous occasions, and I feel like everyone in this entire foundation is for appeasement and appeasement and appeasement. And why are we trying to appease a communist person who is threatening us with nukes? How are they to be trusted? And they can't even handle their own men, like they're so horrible to their own humans.
You seem very passionate about this. Thank you so much for stopping by to talk to us, Ms. Sadusky.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
I am America.
I am Latin America.
Ah!
What you just saw was a flagrant display of oppression and cruelty. And what better depiction of America's actions towards Latin America throughout history? Land represents the indigenous people of Latin America. And land is tired of the oppression. Until America backs down from the Roosevelt corollary, it will face nothing but antipathy from Latin America. Land challenges America to ask itself, is it really worth the risk?
The president gave a moving presidential address at his luncheon, but was unable to come in for comment. Instead, we had Senator Brian Thomas in. Glad to have you back, Mr. Thomas.
Senator Thomas, actually, but it's great to be back.
Okay. And can I ask you some questions about this?
Certainly, this whole situation that's going on.
Yes, thank you. How does the president feel about the U.S. vessel that was blown up while in Chinese possession?
I can't necessarily speak for the president, although I've talked to him a little bit, and just kind of the consensus of what I'm hearing is that we're not wanting to jump to any rash conclusions that it was necessarily the Chinese that blew it up, although it was in their possession, and they do need to be held responsible a little bit for the fact that it blew up in their possession. But at the same time, we don't want to necessarily say oh, the Chinese bombed our ship, you know. So we are investigating as to why it blew up, how, or who was behind it and everything. But for right now, we're not jumping to any major conclusions.
So would you say that the president is sitting back?
I would say that the president is making sure he takes time to make the right decision rather than jumping to a rash conclusion and making the wrong decision. For example, I don't know, I used to be an umpire in baseball, and one of my fellow umpires would just call strikes and balls really fast, and I would take a second in between, and yeah, some coaches got mad at me, but most coaches after the game said thank you for making sure you got the right call rather than just calling a strike even though it might have been out of the strike zone.
All right, thank you. And can you please explain the executive decision agreement that you were explaining to me about?
Yeah, executive agreement was basically our way of saying we don't want to attack China down there, but yet at the same time we need to get our men back somehow that were down there. And so the president and the Chinese ambassador came together and signed this agreement that promised us the return of our American citizens, which circumstances have changed now a little bit. But for the time being, basically we're getting our citizens back. And to be honest, the president, because it's an executive agreement, the president didn't have to send it through the Senate. But he thought it would be good to have the approval of the Senate because that's how treaties are supposed to be run, and this is different from a treaty, but it's close enough that he wanted the approval of the Senate. So we're just trying to show our approval for him, and we really wanted to be behind this, both parties behind this, and so just saying that everybody supports the president and what he's trying to do in this. So we voted 7-0 to pass it. Everybody in the Senate voted to pass it. And now we're pushing forward from there because that wasn't the end of our relations. That was the beginning of where we're going to start from in our relations, of just getting our citizens home first and foremost.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in again.
It's been awesome to be here.
Tune in tomorrow for all of your DFI news.